are going to move on to our next presenter, Nicholas Leftridge. He's currently attending Community College of Aurora, hoping to pursue petroleum engineering at the Colorado School of Mines.
Hello, everybody. Let's see. Am I pulling up my slides, Alicia, or am I pushing somebody through them?
Casey is showing your slides, and you'll just be saying next slide.
Okay, let me see. Okay, cool. All right. So, let's see. Good morning, everybody. Research that myself and Rob Steenburgh from the NOAA did focused on the Planetary K index forecast verification. So go to the next slide, please. For the purposes of this presentation, we're going to focus on why we care. So it's basically motivation and the objective, what we did. So really what we were working with, what we had to work with, and how we worked with it, what we found, which is of course going to embody the results. And last but not least, what's next? So our conclusion, and then moving forward, how that would look. So we can move to the next slide. The why we care is basically focusing on the KP index and what it does. So the KP index focuses on identifying geomagnetic storms that take place in space. And the reason we do care primarily is for the power industry and for communications. High frequency communications, airline, traffic controlling, communications, power industry. These are all areas that are highly affected by geomagnetic storms. In addition to that, pigeon racing is something that is real, and there's a negative effect on the ability for birds to return in the midst of these storms as well. As far as the accuracy of the index is concerned, that will help reduce power production, something that can help ameliorate the effects of the storm. So when this index is accurate, we can go to the power industry, we can go to communications networks and say, hey, these storms are taking place now or in the future, and they're able to implement safeguards, if you will. Another reason for the index itself is the numerical space weather prediction models are driven by the index values. So the whole atmosphere model and the coupled thermosphere, ionosphere, and plasmasphere electrodynamics, which is also called CTIPI. Next slide, please. Okay, so what we did, this is where it starts getting a little more interesting. What we did was basically, there are 13 magnetometers located around the globe. And these magnetometers collect geomagnetic storm data and basically give us an earthly value. They are stored in an observatory in Potsdam in Germany. We pulled down our information, our observed forecast or observed observations from the World Data Center for Geomagnetism, which is located in Kyoto, Japan. And then we pulled down our forecast values from the Space Weather Prediction Center, which is SWPC here in Boulder. So we took the observations, which is basically just saying, okay, these are the storms that happened. And we took our forecast, which are the comparative forecasts are saying these are the types of storms that we expected or expect to happen on any given day. And we compared the two in numerous different time intervals. So we started by selecting the data for our 00Z timeframes, which is the first 24 hours. The forecasting goes out as far as 72 hours, but it's on a rolling 12-hour period. So every 12 hours, that 3-day forecast gets pushed forward. We were working primarily with the first 24 hours. And it's also important to note that if you look in the bottom right corner here, this is a grid for all of the index values available. So the index goes from 0 to 9. You can see there's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But then each one of those has 3 values in of itself. So for 1, there's 1 minus, there's 1 O, and there's 1 plus. 2 minus, 2 O, 2 plus. For the purposes of our research, we simplified these values and worked just with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And what you see in the bottom left-hand corner here is those are actual values for the KP index for observed values for the 15th of September, 2017. And then on the top right corner, you can see what were our forecast values for that same period of time. Let's see here if we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so what
And
we
Nick,
did find.
Nick, you're at 7 minutes right now. So yeah, 2 more minutes before we have to cut you off.
Yep. So in the end, what we did find was there's a tendency for us to over forecast on these smaller storms. So that's basically anything from 0 to about 4. Over forecasting is something that isn't necessarily bad, but depending on the customer, it can be something that isn't ideal. And then conversely, seeing as how the larger storms, anything that's from index value of 5 and above, they don't tend to happen that often. There's a limited amount of data for or forecasting for those storms. So if we can go to the next slide, and for time, the next slide. What we're looking for here is an opportunity to verify measures for rare events, which are the larger storms. We also would like to work with the 48 and 72-hour forecast. Additionally, the coronal hole high-speed stream versus coronal mass ejection performance, and working with identifying storms that work around the solar cycle, the 27-day sun cycle. So that's what we're hoping to do more of going forward, and also use the full breadth of KP index values in an attempt to verify as well. So, yep.
All right, great. We have time for one quick question. Okay. Let's see. So first question is, can high accuracy of these indexes increase energy efficiency overall? Like lessen the amount of energy lost when traveling from the plant through the lines into the building?
I could see it. That's a good question. I could see how that would be possible. I think more so what it will do is mitigate the negative effects of the storm. So there's a story that we were talking about. Really, these storms can interfere and do quite a bit of damage. So it's not so much efficiency as it is to safeguard what is already there. If that answers your question.
Okay, great. And the KP index is a global index. Do you think we should develop more local index values? And do you think the phone data that Jay worked on could help with this?
It's funny you say that. Me and Jay actually started working at the beginning of this whole thing. We were doing one of the field projects together, and additionally, speaking with Rob when we first started. And yeah, having a local uh, index is something that's already been discussed, and is something that is being discussed. And I do think that the data that Jay came across and that we're working with, there is an overlap there. How it the minutia therein, we're still I would need to figure out. And my mentor Rob has been awesome. So really, that's something that I can then ask him about.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Great job.